The Ward Scott Files is produced by Ward Scott Files, LLC.
Come on, everybody! Come on, everybody!
This is a Ward Scott Files advisory. The Ward Scott Files radio show may contain material not suited for people who are easily offended. Trust us on this. This show contains adult information and opinions. Please protect small children, sensitive pets, fragile houseplants, and liberal relatives. Thank you.
All right. Good morning. I'm looking through all my notes here today, getting ready to go with you. Professor Ward Scott, the Professor Warthog here in the man cave, our undisclosed location. And we're bringing you all the latest provocative things we can think of to stir you up and get you involved and off you derriere and out into the world of accountability, if you will. How's that sound for an opening, Jay? Got my good buddy Jay back there with me behind the wall.
That's our theme today.
What's our theme? What does accountability look like? That's good. Jay is really on the ball. I don't want to praise him too much. His head's pretty big now, but that's okay.
Making me blush every day.
Make him blush every day. Yeah, make him blush. He actually won an argument with me yesterday. I couldn't believe it, Jay. I was listening to the show yesterday while I was doing my manly workout on the Stairmaster. I was listening to my own self, which is the most intelligent person I can listen to. And I listened to myself and I said, golly, that guy's pretty good. And then I realized it is yours truly, my own self. So, and I say that with all humility, right? I mean, I understand that time is fleeting and flesh is weak and everything goes to dust and ashes to ashes. But in the meantime, maybe you got something to contribute. And I thought some of the stuff that I gave you as a context into which this suspicious fire, which, is nothing more than a fire until we perceive all those forces around it, I thought that was a pretty good analysis of where we are with the Muslim issue, if you will, and how that is going down through the various government agencies and how it's being soft-pedaled and all this kind of business. I said, golly, that's pretty good. How'd that guy get all that information in his head? And I want to thank Jay for winning an argument with me. And one of the things we established yesterday, to my chagrin, is that white is a color. Jay stuck up for his lily white skin. I couldn't believe it. I said, now Jay doesn't have a tan. You never get to see the guy, but he doesn't have a tan. He's always working hard. He's at school. He's here early. He's the brains behind the outfit here. And the guy, he doesn't do any sunbathing, I can tell you that right now. And he made the argument yesterday. If you missed the show yesterday, of course, we have it at wardscottfiles.tv and out on the Facebook platforms. And he dared to argue with yours truly. I mean, can you believe it? And that's always a good sign when a student musters up the courage to say, well, golly, that guy's not any brighter than I am. How about if I challenge him? That was something I always encouraged the students to do, and that's when I really knew something was happening. When they stopped just taking everything for granted that I said and challenged it, and I said, now I got something I can work with. And, you could judge how bright they were by how soon they did that. I remember one time I had invited to the class one of the brightest guys that ever came to my research class. He just really was outside the box all over the place, and he was a university professor, and he was one of the guys who was hired to be a dreamer and think big. And I had several friends like that. One was called the Stargazer. He was one of the top astronomers in the world who came here and looked out into the blackness and found black holes and all that sort of stuff. I would get these guys to come into, if I could, into my research class and talk to these kids who were about 19, 20 years old. And I remember one day, this professor was talking and everybody was quiet. And not only did they not know the answers to any questions he asked, they weren't able to anticipate the questions. So after a while, there was a person, and it was the oldest person in the class, by the way, who raised her hand and said, well, what about this and what about that? And that engaged the professor, and nobody had ever asked the professor that question, and then off and running the class went. So yesterday, we're talking about persons of color and how Rashida Tlaib claims, and if you look at her, I guess she's a person of color. In this umbrella, person of color is left out to white. And Jay had the temerity to get on the doggone earphones here. I think he went public with it even, which we we let him do every once in a while, right, Jay? He lets himself do it. I have no.
Let me out of the cage.
Yeah, I let him out of the cage. I have no control over it, really. And he argued that he was a person of color, even though he's white. Right, Jay? Have I got that right?
Yep.
And I said, that's not, no, you're not. And he says, yes, I am. I am a person of color. And I said, oh, really? And then I got to thinking about it. He's absolutely right. If you want to paint your house, I got a white shirt on. That's a shirt that's got a color, okay? And so if you want to paint your house, and I had to ask for a white shirt, okay? Not a green shirt, a blue shirt, a white shirt, okay? So if you want to paint your house, you go to the paint store and you get a white paint, all right? And there's all shades of white. You don't understand that too, right, Jay? There's all shades of white. So, but we've been left out of that in the political world. We don't count as a color. There you are. I thought that was a good exchange yesterday. And I was doing my manly workout on the Stairmaster, and I came to that part of it, and I said, that's good. I mean, that's really good, and it makes up a very, very good point. Now, I'm going to have a little session here, therefore, on education. You know, yours truly was a professor in the college classroom for 40 years. I have no idea how many people I've taught. Maybe it's just an enormous number of people. And now these people, I've taught their people and this kind of thing. That's what one of the things is. And then, of course, they've taught me. So that's the whole goal, is you teach your students well so they will come back and teach you well. And if you teach your students poorly, then you're going to expect the world to be kind of really, not all that cool. So this annoys me, what I'm going to share with you right now, because I think it's one of the weird things that's going on right now that is, and I determined yesterday, with the help of an Adams Rib is one of our sponsors right now. Adams, check out Adam Brewer at Adams Ribs. I got to thinking about this whole student relationship. I run this as a professor, and you're my students and all that, and you challenge us, and we see the images come across the screen. We try to answer your questions. Reparations. I just think it's just nutty. I'm sorry. I mean, it's just nutty. But it is political reality. It is not reality. And that's kind of the distinction that we've got here established by Jay's conversation yesterday, that white is indeed a color. And that by being excluded because you're white as not being a person of color is really a political tool. It's not an actual reality tool. So I think so many students, with the exception of my good friend behind the wall here, just parrot the contemporary political ideology in these institutions. And here's one that really gets me. Georgetown University. Now, Georgetown University is supposed to be a premier university. It's one of these things you have to beg, borrow, and steal to get into, and cheat if you have to. Go get these guys, this Brainiac, who, by the way, used to be one of the top tennis players. I've forgotten his name now. He used to be one of the top tennis players in the state of Florida. The guy went on to become a professional test taker for the students who wanted to hedge their grades and get in. And by the way, the whole emphasis on standardized testing is another thing that is completely wacky. When I got into Vanderbilt, which I did not attend, by the way, but when I got into Vanderbilt, I wrote my way in. Everything I've ever done, I wrote my way into. I never did it with standardized tests. I hated standardized tests. They were all programmed to program you, and I can't stand being programmed. One of the things that attracts me about what I'm doing now is nobody programs me, nobody censors me, nobody tells me I can't talk about something. And that's one of the wonderful things about being on digital broadcasting, is the federal government can't even tell you what to say. And I keep it clean because it's a family show, as we say, a family show. I mean, I really do. This is from years of being in the classroom. There's a language you use publicly, and then there's a language you use privately. And Jay knows as soon as the mics go cold, and I hope they're cold, my language changes completely to that of the sailor. But that's okay. I mean, that's the way it is. But I don't do that publicly. I don't think I've really messed up too much at all.
You don't deserve the halo.
I don't deserve the halo. Look at the halo over my head. Jay always positions me so that there is a halo over my head. If you notice it, see the halo? So anyway, these Georgetown University students voted about last week in favor of a resolution that will force them, their own selves, their own selves, as I understand this, to pay an annual slavery reparation fee. Huh? Jay knows about student fees. The biggest student fee in the city here where we're broadcasting from in Gainesville is the transit fee. And the regional transit system here in Gainesville would be 10 toes up if it were not subsidized by the students here at the university. I lost track of how many are at the university right now. Is it 40,000? You have 60,000 at the university. We got another 20 or so thousand, maybe 30,000 at Santa Fe. So we almost 100,000 students in the town. And they get around and their fees are used to subsidize the bus transportation. So students pay fees. Here's a fee they imposed on themselves. Students at Georgetown University passed a referendum that seeks to address the fact that the institution they attend, and probably, jokingly, but not jokingly, may have cheated to get into, sold slaves to pay off its debts. Now, this thing about slavery, by the way, when the war was lost by the South against the Northern Yankee aggression, and the slaves were taken from the Southerners were not given compensation for that. That was property. I mean, I don't care how you couch it. It was property for which they paid handsomely. And the biggest slave port really was in Colombia. And then I've forgotten the name of the place, but that's where the biggest slave port was, and had been for years. And you paid money to get these people to work, because you're an agrarian culture, and you work the land, and it takes labor to work the land. And it's one of the reasons we're in a bind right now with immigrants, is because immigrants can work. I can take you outside of town right now and show you people working in the fields who are not from here, and they're all people of, quote, color. And they're the only ones who'll do the work, and it's not our people. Our people of color don't do the work. They quit that. They don't do it, largely because of what we're going through right now. They've been taught to think that that's not acceptable. Well, somebody's got to do it. So we have this bind we're in right now in immigration that a lot of people don't want to talk about. They keep blaming it on, these big corporations want to drive down the minimum wage, and they want to run off our local workers. They want to get these cheap people in here to work, and so it's the evil corporations. A lot of this is a need for actually getting into the fields with the crops. So students there at Georgetown University passed this referendum. They're going to, because the university once owned slaves, and as a result, they're going to be charged. Now, here it is, Jay. Are you ready? An additional $27.20, as we say in the South, per semester. Come on, Jay. Get with it. You need to start this kind of movement in Florida, perhaps. Did Florida ever sell slaves or own slaves?
Yeah. There was a lot of things like that, but I could buy a lot with that money.
$27.20?
Yeah, man.
Okay.
I'm a college student. I know how to. You know
how to do it, right? The amount was chosen, my man, to represent, you ready for this, the 272 slaves that Georgetown University sold in 1838. Huh? Come on, brother. Over 2/3 of those who voted favored the new reparations fee, all right? 2/3 of the students who voted. Huh?
Do they know what 2/3 is?
Well, I don't know. I mean, come on. They're your colleagues.
I mean, I've seen cases where people prefer 1/4 over 2/3.
Okay. This money will be collected, Jay. Pay attention now. Don't sit on the back row with your hat on backwards. From the new student fee, it's going to go towards the creation of a fund, my man, that will be donated to schools and health care programs in Louisiana. That's where the slaves came from. Huh? Now listen to this. These students are not stupid. They figured out that in Louisiana, as we sometimes joked and called it, 4,000, are you ready for this, Jay? 4,000 known descendants of these 272 Georgetown slaves now live in Louisiana. Huh? Now, the vice president for student affairs, and almost always they have been recruited for their belief in diversity and inclusion, And I think Florida even has a vice president exclusively of nothing but diversity and inclusion. Yeah, I mean, the dude's drawing six figures, well over six figures, for being over there shepherding diversity and inclusion through the curriculum in the campus. So, Georgetown University Vice President for Student Affairs, Dr. Todd Olson, said that the university has met with the descendants of the slaves, and all 4,000, I wonder, that were once owned by the institution. So now they have been, I didn't know this, I thought I knew everything, Jay. Since 2015, Georgetown has been working to address its historical relationship to slavery. And this is just the beginning of what they call reconciliation. It started off, and you know, Captain Planet here, one more token, I'm over the line, Robert Karl Marx Hutchison, the county commissioner, wants the county to do this. And it might show up on your tax bill. I'd look in your trim notice, I don't know. But the first thing that Georgetown did, and then Newberry did this town out here outside of this town, a formal apology to the descendants. And they turned around and renamed 2 buildings. Okay, and one of the buildings is named after Isaac Hawkins, who was the first person named in the 1838 sale. Okay? And, are you ready for this? Offered the descendants the same consideration and admissions it gives members of the Georgetown. So these people who are descendants of these slaves get into Georgetown without having to cheat. Huh? Come on, man. Get with it. Get with it. Now that is gone on at Georgetown University. Tom Kakata has reported on this. Go check it out on Google, of the almighty Google, and duel in annual slave reparations. Now, we got a great mind and a great writer, and I saved this back, as we say, in the Midnight Auto Yard. Jason Riley, okay, black fellow. Sometimes he's on Fox. He has a good mind. He writes well, he thinks well, and he says slavery reparations are illogical. Now, you understand his word, illogical. Now, I have to tell you that in the Georgetown situation where the students voted to tax themselves, that's emotional, I would suggest. That's emotional. It's not logical. It's not logical. Can you imagine you're sitting over there in Louisiana, and all of a sudden there comes a tap, tap, tap on your door, and the vice president of student affairs, which is really synonymous, I suppose, with diversity and inclusion, says, get your harp and come with me. You've just been admitted to Georgetown University for something that happened in 1838. I think you probably have to stop and have an adult beverage along the way, wouldn't you, Jay? I mean,
it really is stupid. Like, college is about individuals who are intelligent becoming more intelligent to benefit our society. That's what I view college as. That's what I view that I'm doing. To just give things away to people for something that happened in 1838, nonsense. That's nonsense, and I just can't accept it.
Well, you know who one of the, and this is ironical, one of the people, I'm going to have some fun with this, who is beating the tom-tom for this? Yes, Pocahontas. Yes, Pocahontas went to Jackson, Mississippi. She's about like a fish out of water in Jackson, Mississippi, I can assure you. Pocahontas is. Yeah, ho, ho, let me hear them drums, brother. Yeah, ho, yeah, ho, yeah, ho. Oh, yay, oh, yay. Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren, she went to an audience in this, according to Jason Riley, and this is a while back in the Wall Street Journal, and I saved it back in what I call the Midnight Auto Yard. She went to Jackson, Mississippi, and she says, it's time to start the national full-blown conversation about slavery reparations for blacks. I don't know, are you kidding me? And then Jason Riley replies by saying, come again? Come again? He says, and this is Jason writing, he says, he's never asked anything from anybody. He just went to school and dug in and exercised his brain. He said, compensating black Americans for past oppressions has been a subject of discussion for decades. And the senator's problem is that large majorities of the public have consistently opposed reparations, but not that it won't keep these politicians from talking about it. And he goes through this, how every once in a while, the debt, here's a book by Randall Robinson, The Debt, What America Owes to Blacks. It became a bestseller. I mean, golly. And here's a guy who says, this is Bayard Rustin, who organized the 1963 March on Washington and was once one of Martin Luther King's closest advisors. He was a skeptic of blacks cashing in, I like that pun, in on the tribulations of long gone forebears. He said, this guy who worked with King in the streets, the idea of reparations is a ridiculous idea. This is from Rustin. If my great-grandfather picked cotton for 50 years, then he may deserve some money. But he's dead and gone. Nobody owes me anything. Huh?
You know, I'm looking at the comments here, and people are saying that the students voted that their mom and dad pay for the reparations. And, you know, I was kind of thinking, I'm like, you know, if you guys wanted to do that on your own, the students wanted to help out Louisiana on their own without reparations, I'm fine if you're spending your own money. But, I'm going to spend mom and dad's money to help out some people in Louisiana. Oh, come on.
Well, you got to bring up an interesting point. Here's what I think they should do. They would never do it. Have themselves put on a jacket that says reparations, go out on the side of the road and pick up trash. Okay? And pick up enough trash to make $27.20 a month. Okay? Then I would maybe halfway sort of think that's not a bad idea. But you bring up a good point once again, Jay, somebody who maintains that white is a color.
Man, I'm on a roll.
You're on a roll. 2 days now in class, you've sat on the front row and you paid attention. So, yes, I like your point. And well, it's not really. It's conversation from the students, the others who are watching on our various platforms, and they perked up and replied, this is what this is all about. We send out conversations and you participate with us and we reply. And I think the point is well made. How would they pay the fee? I think they should pay the fee in a way that they remember that they had to work to pay the fee, right? Then I might take a step toward endorsing it. I'm just old school. That's what I used to have to do. Hey, if I wanted something, I had to go out and hoe beans, and I hated hoeing beans. There's nothing worse than on a 100-acre farm going through about a 40-acre field with rows of beans with no cloud cover, no trees, nothing, walking with a hoe and hoeing the weeds, hoeing them literally out of between the beans. Now, I do that now on my own pasture. The thistleweed. I don't walk, though. I get in my cart, and I go and I get my shovel. Yours truly, a man of my caliber, does this, okay? And I ride around in the field, because I don't spray it. Oh, God forbid I should spray it. I don't spray it, my friends. That would work its way into the aquifer, would it not, Jay? So I do it the right way. I get a shovel, and I go out and I dig up thistleweed and I put it in the back of the cart and I take it to a burn pit I have where eventually it is burned, right? No toxic chemical on my field. And actually, I'm just too lazy. I would rather not have to mix the chemical because I've got a way to put it in the cart and drive around. It'd be real easy. Just spray, and go to the next one, spray. No, I get out and I dig it. And I dig it. And you ought to see the cattle come up and look at me, especially the calves. They come up and they say, what in the world are you doing? A man of your caliber out here digging these thistleweeds up for us? That's the way it works, my man. That's what these Georgetown spoiled brat students should have to do. They should have to get on the jacket so that the public knows that they are out there on the side of the road, I don't know, digging thistleweeds or picking up trash, which they themselves probably threw out there, to pay the $27.20, as we say in the South, for this reparation fee. Now, meanwhile, Jason Riley thinks it's crazy This guy, Baynard Rustin, who worked with King, thinks he's nuts. But that doesn't keep Pocahontas and her ilk from bringing it up. And gradually, they're trying to influence public opinion. And public opinion is based upon the most shallow of pieces of information and the most shallow assumptions. And the suckers are born every minute in public opinion. I don't know why you go get a poll, because there's so many suckers that fill them out. So in the Gallup poll from 2002, and Riley's kind of marching forward in this article on this, from 2002 found that half of blacks oppose reparations. You don't hear that. You're not going to hear that from Pocahontas and the like, okay? And from the students whose minds have been filled with this mush, along with 90% of the whites. In 2015, a Kaiser Family Foundation CNN survey, and that's the Communist News Network, and I got an article on how they've tanked. Their ratings are so far down now you can't see up. That survey found that 52% of blacks and only 8% of whites agreed that the government should make cash payments to black Americans who are descendants of slaves. Huh? Oh.
That's how you figure out how true Americans are.
There you are.
You put out a poll asking for reparations. Those who respond, yes, let's have reparations. Okay, you're not a real American.
So Riley is watching this so-called democratic enthusiasm for reparations, and like the rest of us, he smells a rat. He doesn't think this is really valid, especially when many of the black leaders think it's a crock. But that doesn't keep Pocahontas and the rest of them from piling in on this and make it some kind of emotional deal, and the students from falling for it where they're exposed to these liberal professors. So it becomes, right now, Riley describes it as a kind of a crude strategy. And part of this strategy lies in the success or lack thereof of people like Pocahontas being able to convince themselves and their followers that there are tremendous racial disparities in today's culture, which are due to racial discrimination. Okay. Now I got to tell you, I got some plans for people here in the future to come on the show with you and educate you a little bit. I got an article coming up in a little bit on the Hispanic vote, and later on in the show next week, I'm going to have a story of how the Hispanics handle this. They just come here and roll up their sleeves and go to work. I'm talking primarily about the Cubans. They've had it rougher than anybody's had it. They've had their land, their country, everything, their freedoms taken away from them. They were tricked by Castro. Castro promised them, basically, if you talk to the Cubans, basically Castro promised them everything that AOC and disheveled Bernie is promising them right now: free this, free that, free this, free that. And none of it ever came true, and you see what it did with the country. It drove it into the ground. But that doesn't prevent those with a very limited memory from reinventing the wheel. So, you know, the jury's out on whether or not they'll convince these impressionable people, which they did apparently at Georgetown, or whether or not there's any logic behind this. According to Riley, there is no logic. What this does, according to Riley, if you hold these the people for slavery responsible for black, here's the issue. Here's the flaw Riley says in this. You're trying to hold slavery responsible for black America's contemporary problems, all right? That's the basic flaw Riley, who is black, says in this thinking. In other words, why are the black killing each other in Chicago? It's because of slavery. Really? Really? Are you kidding me? Why does LeBron James, I guess he's the wealthiest black athlete in the world now, would he pile in on this too? I mean, has he been limited by slavery? Michael Jordan? I don't get it. And neither does Riley. Now, he says what this will require, and this is what the real sticking point is for Riley. In order to believe this is why communist Karl Marx, Hutchison, and even the people out of Newberry ought to pay attention. What that does is that nullifies the progress made by blacks, both in absolute terms and in relative to whites, who have got along quite nicely, and it doesn't address anything to do with the soaring violent crime rates that produces so much trauma in black communities, and it didn't exist there in the first 100 years after emancipation. Do you understand what Briley's showing? If this is true, the blacks would have been worse off 100 years after the war was over than they are now, but in terms of crime, black on black, it's worse. They weren't doing that to each other 100 years after the war. The poverty rates, you know, that's not a result of reparations. So there you are. I wanted to read that into your notes, Jay. What do you think? That's Jason Riley. If you have never read Jason Riley, you probably ought to pay a little attention reading. He's phenomenal. He is really phenomenal. And he can think. That's why I like him. He can think. So, what do you have to say, Jay? Anything about on the heels of that conversation, my man? That makes sense to you?
It helps us move on to our next topic about Barr holding people accountable.
Well, I want to also talk just for a moment about Fox and Smollett. There's a little follow-up story on that, and it follows on the heels of this. This is really, really interesting. I picked this stuff up, doing some reading today. Kim Fox, she is the one who swept under the rug that Smollett. She's the prosecuting attorney who swept under the rug the whole Smollett thing. She's the Cook County State Attorney, but now, and this is really interesting how they got this, Jay. This was acquired. Let me see how they got this. I think it was Freedom of Information Act that they used to get her. Yeah, Freedom of Information Act request by CBS of Chicago got the following text message of Fox. Of Fox. Okay, are you ready for this, Jay? In a text message, Kim Fox referred to actor Jussie Smollett as a, quote, washed-up celeb who lied to cops. Yep. Washed-up celeb who lied to cops. How did we learn that? Freedom of Information Act by CBS Chicago to get her text messages. They were sent roughly, Jay, 2 weeks prior to her office dropping all the charges against Smollett. She wrote a staffer on March 8th, the same day Smollett was indicted on 16 felony counts, that, she sure he staged this hate crime against himself. And so meanwhile, so what accounts for her dropping it? Well, we know that people in high places were consulted, right? In particular, a liar for, guess what? Michelle Obama. So the text messages also show that, quote unquote, there was a tsunami of media requests after the charges were dropped against Smollett. And that Fox never anticipated the magnitude of the media response to her behavior. I guess she just thought she'd do it and go on about her business and nobody would object. So she said she was just inundated with questions about consistency and in her intentions and her discretion, her guiding principles, all this business. Huh? Good. So now there's going to be, Chicago is going to bring a civil lawsuit against Smollett for refusing to pay about $130K that the cops spent on investigating the hoax, which Fox admits in a text message 2 weeks before she sweeps it under the rug that it's a hoax. So, and then fights the cops publicly, and the mayor gets elected on the heels of this. Remember, we told you that the politicians were going to make some hay out of this, and you get elected a lesbian mayor who says, oh, well, they picked on poor old Smollett. And meanwhile, the Chicago Fraternal Order of Police has called on Fox to resign from her post. We got some of the same stuff going on right here in this area. This Reichert House stuff going on, which the city is going to talk about tomorrow, that's going to be, we're going to see how much gets swept under the rug there. There is all kinds of lack of accountability for money going on at Reichert House. It's been going on for a long time. It kind of explains, I once asked to be a director. I thought, man, I'll help some kids, you know. I once asked to be a director on the Reichert House deal, and I never even got a reply. There was never even anybody they were interested in, evidently. And I would have been looking at rocks and turning them over the whole time had this come about. And, you know, but I never even got a reply. So, you know, that don't bother me. I mean, I understand the source. But I think it's going to be revealed now very, very soon that that whole accountability thing is really a mess. And it has been for a long time. Meanwhile, Smollett, this is according to Daily Caller, Smollett is evidently, and the word that I like here, Jay, is that he's been dumped, all right? Dumped. He is now not going to be considered for the lead role that would have been his debut on Broadway in the Tony-winning drama Take Me Out, okay? Huh? Take Me Out, yeah. He got what they call dumped. Huh? Dumped!
He didn't get taken out.
He got dumped. Oh, man. So we had to follow up there with you on the students and their crazy behavior about reparations. And what's that, sir? Oh, you want me to go to the maga attack? Oh, my golly. Okay, he wants me to go to the do I have my magma? I guess I don't. It is behind me. Okay, good, good. We got another guy beat up before his hat. Let me see where I put that thing, man. I put it somewhere. Where did I put that, Jay? Did I put it in the notes or what did I? It isn't the Slack notes. I mean, darn. There it is. I got it. I got so much stuff here, friends. I can't keep track of it all. There is. Now this is ironic. There is a black immigrant from Africa here legally. Now this is a legal dude. Okay, a black immigrant legally here from West Africa. He was beaten up Saturday. Warner Todd Houston reporting. He was beaten up Saturday in Germantown, Maryland. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Because, are you ready for this? He was wearing, guess what? Where's my hat? Yeah, it's back there. Wearing a red Donald Trump Make America Great Again hat, okay? This guy's name was Atsu Nabel. There he is. He's a legal immigrant from Togo, and he supports President Donald Trump. But the two alleged attackers were apparently incensed by his hat. Huh? Oh, golly, man. This is ABC reporting this. A man was punched in the head, upper body, and his hat taken away from him. He's a legal immigrant, and he was approached by these two guys. Now, this wasn't a hoax. Now, the reason we put this in here, and Jay, this is brilliant for you to have me go to this right after Fox and Smollett, right? I see Jay, you're getting, your daily grade today is, I hate to say, I never get it. You earned an A today, so far, okay?
The only A I've ever earned.
Yeah, you've earned an A today. You've done several things you've stumped the teacher. I mean, you know, white is a color, you got that established. And now you've put together a hoax by Smollett with the real deal on a real guy who got beat up for real, who was wearing a red hat, who was minding his own business. Two black guys attack a black guy. Oh, golly, my golly. Which is exactly the hoax. You can't make this stuff up. Which is exactly the hoax that Smollett wanted to perpetrate on the public to get after Trump. I got to take, you know, that is one of the craziest things I've ever said. That is nuts. Think about that, Jay. Huh?
See, Smollett was trying to create a fantasy. This is reality.
Smollett was trying to take advantage of hate. He really was. He was trying to do what? Trade in the currency of hate. That's what he was doing. I mean, this is, Jay, I moved this up. I don't know if you see all these notes and things we go through. We never get through all of them. I got this pile of stuff here to go through with you. We never get through all of it. But Jay had me move up the hat right next to Smollett. I never saw the connection until Jay pointed it out. That the Smollett case was a hoax. This case is the real deal. And that Smollett was trying to entertain the facsimile of the real deal. And Fox, as stupid as she is, she couldn't figure out the significance of all this. Well, let's put it this way. I think she did understand the significance of it all. I think she wanted to not play into the hands of reverse racism. You know, had they been established, let me think through this. Had it been established through trial and all this stuff that Smollett did this deliberately because he hated Trump, think about that, Jay. It would have backfired, right? And so Fox, not wanting it to backfire, right? Not wanting it to backfire, nipped it in the bud. Because if it had gone out in a full public display and all the facts had been revealed, that this guy was imitating the real violence that this poor man suffered, then people would have righteous indignation and Smollett's goal would be reversed and it would become a negative rather than a positive. Oh, golly, that is really, really interesting. That is really, really interesting. I got to give Jay, you know, right now I guess he's the brightest kid in the class. He's the only kid in the class here with me, so I don't know how the rest of you are doing.
What difference at this point does it make?
I don't know. Hillary is really a mess. They're going to get her. I swear they're going to get her. Come on, Barr. We're going to do that. We're going to switch over to Barr. Come on, Barr. You know, we need a shirt that says that, Jay. Come on, Barr. You know, we need that. Come on, Barr. He's our hope right now. You know, Barr, he don't play. He just blocked catch and release down on the dog. Think of the difference between Barr so far and Sessions. Huh? I mean, it is night and day. No wonder Trump wanted him off the team. No wonder Trump didn't want him in the foxhole. The guy he ain't got a spine, Sessions. So here is the deal that we know, and we're waiting on Barr to correct. First of all, we know, and I don't want to go over all this stuff because by now it should almost be chapter and verse for you. We know all about the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court and all that business with Clinton and the campaigns and the dossier and the surveillance and the Carter Page stuff. But why the secrecy is the question. Why have they kept this secret? And this is Kimberly Strassel writing about this. And Kimberly Strassel started out a huge Trump hater, okay? She couldn't stand Trump. She thought he was bogus and an egomaniac and all that crap. Now she's come around to where everybody else is. And in the continuum of idiots in the political world, he's way, way far away from them. I mean, my golly, he's head and shoulders above them. He's no one near like them. So, you know, Trump's victory destroyed the scenario that they put in place after Clinton lost. Because first place, as you know, they couldn't believe that Clinton would lose. So they had this backup plan. It's really ingenious. They had a backup plan, as you know. And had Clinton won, nobody ever, get this now, would have known anything about this because it would have been, you think Fox covering up Smollett was a deal. This whole thing would have been swept completely under the rug. You never would have heard a word about it. You'd have gone about your business as naively as you lived every day of your life heretofore. But Trump's victory destroyed their scenario that, you know, Clinton was the heir apparent. And at that point, Strassel thing says two things happened, and neither was accidental. And by the way, Jay, she's got the subject verb correct, all right? She didn't say neither were, right? Because neither is singular. She said neither was accidental. Well, I pay attention to things like that. You know, let me tell you why, Jay. The room for tolerance, the room for error in computer programming language, how much room is none, right? None. None. There shouldn't be any in verbal either, right? But it's much more fluid and mercurial, verbal is, than, because you see the instant results of your mistake in the computer programming language. You can't see the instant results of your mistake in verbal language. unless somebody like me is watching you. So neither was accidental, and both were aimed, again, at forestalling accountability. Now, right now, friends, students, patriots, never Trumpers, Ward Scott Files fans at all, liberal critics who are out there watching, we know, because you don't have anybody on your side of the aisle who can do a show. Right now, we are waiting, go Barr, go, Barr, go, to break through this forestalling of accountability. Comey and the other intelligence officials, including Clapper, who's the dumbest one of all of them. Clapper's the dumbest, and there's two really real villains here. One is that that Brennan. He's a commie. He's a commie, and then Clapper, who's stupid. Okay, and I love the name Clapper. It means he went along for it. He was a Clapper. They engineered the public release of all the scandalous claims against Trump. To do what? To provide cover for the failed Clinton. We've known this, my friends. I have known this for 2 years. I mean, I've known this ever since Trump walked down Pennsylvania Avenue. I mean, I've known it. You've known it. What is taking these people so long to know it? I was being stopped in restaurants, I mean, years ago by lawyers here, liars whom I know. And they would defer to me and they say, Ward, are they going to get Hillary Clinton? And I said, you know, we'll see. Look what we had to go through. We had to fire Sessions. We've had to wade through Fat Jerry, Sleazy Cummings, Schiff, all of these people to set up a situation where we can finally begin the tom-tom drums again to get after this stuff, the march. So, and Strassel says this diversion, this cover, this forestalling is an old classic Washington trick. It has been used, that's what the deep state is all about. They employed a classic trick to divert. Okay, to divert. The Democrats have mobilized, and they did it successfully, when they thought, this is pretty interesting analysis by Strassel here, Jay, when they thought Sessions might warm up his jets and actually, you know, get a spine, they went after him. And guess what? Trump did the right thing. He fired him. Oh, they raised all sorts of cane about that. And, of course, Trump had fired Comey. They raised all sorts of cane. Trump, let me go back to one thing you have to understand. Trump knows everything. He's the president of the United States. He has access to any document he wants. He knows everything. That doesn't mean he can jump from the beginning to the end. It has to go through this process. It took him a while to figure out who the rats were in his kitchen. He began to get rid of them. Of course, the press did what as he did this? Oh, the White House is in turmoil. You know, there's a guy here even wanted, this is one of the things I think is really interesting. Where is all this stuff here in my Midnight Auto yard? Oh, golly, let me find this. This is so relevant. Let me just get to it. Investigate McCabe's 25th Amendment tale. You know what that is, don't you? Huh? You know what that is? That the president is nuts and has to be hauled out of the dadgum Oval Office in a straitjacket. They've tried everything to promote and forestall this accountability. All right? That's what they have been trying repeatedly and repeatedly and repeatedly. All right? So, how many Democrats, Strassel asks, pushed for Sessions' recusal? Go back and look at that. That'd be a really good research project, Jay, for the students to go back. Of course, they don't assign this kind of stuff at the university. But have the students go back and take a look at how many Democrats pushed for the recusal of Sessions. Why do you think, Strassel says, why do you think they did that? They didn't want the Attorney General piercing the act of forestalling the accountability.
They're sneaky, dirty rats.
They're sneaky, dirty rats. Huh? So the goal all along, as Strassel said, and this is her language, all right, has been to deep six any discovery until a Democrat returns to the White House. Good luck. I think this is going to even diminish the chances of that happening if we stay after it as a public and we keep the pressure and the pedal to the metal. All right? This forestalling of the accountability is the classic Washington trick that they employed after Clinton unexpectedly and ghastly lost. There it is. You want to add anything to that, Jay? I mean, I don't know if you can add anything that brilliant. I mean, who could add anything to that, huh?
I can't add to your brilliance.
You can't add a word.
Your halo grows brighter
Look
every
at the
day.
halo. Will you brighten the halo, please? Even earlier, I got another Strassel deal here. I couldn't believe that woman has changed her tune. She says one of the terrible things, and the reason this is in an earlier article, which I saved in my midnight audio. She says that who in the world, this is why everybody, Democrat and Republican, should be wanting to get to the bottom of this, because who wants the federal government spreading unfounded or uncorroborated accusations? I mean, who in his right mind? You Democrats who are out there listening, do you want that? Do you want that? Do you really want that? Strassel says that the government has no business spreading allegations of dirt from a case that it's unwilling to take to court. Now, right now, the key to this, and I got this to cover too. I know I will not get to it all today. I mean, it's more than I can get to. All right. Why would the government want to keep this from going through the judicial process? The big thing that should happen now is the Frankenstein Comey and his ilk should be hauled before a grand jury. That's what the Gould did to Manafort and the rest of them. He hauled them before a grand jury. So Strassel says that Barr should go, Barr, go. Go, Barr, go. Right, Jay? Barr should haul these characters before a grand jury. Make them raise their paw and swear the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And let the grand jury sit there and listen to it, and the grand jury produces no true bill. You okay? You're scot-free. So this is why the Democrats and Fat Jerry, God, I can't stand that Fat Jerry. Don't put bug eyes up there. You'll give me a nightmare, Jay. Oh, he'll do it. Just because I said not to, he'll do it just to heckle the teacher. Oh, golly, here's coming. There's bug eyes. Oh, my golly.
You just can't help yourself.
I just can't help myself. And, Jay, you're kind of like me, Jay. You know, when you were in school, you like to pester the teacher a little bit, throw a paper wad around or something. But, yeah, you just never got caught. Well, anyway, here we are. The Democrats are trying everything they can do, and you wait till this thing comes out tomorrow. Jay, you wait. You wait till this Barr redacted report. They are going to jump on that. You've been riding down the road and see the buzzards out there eating them roadkill, right? Huh? That's what's going to happen. It's going to be the buzzards. Listen, friends, every time you're riding down the road in your area where you're listening from and you see the buzzards out there, and we see it all over the South, the buzzards eating roadkill, that's what the Democrats are going to be like. The Democrats are going to be the buzzards, and the roadkill is going to be the redacted Gould report, and they're going to be crying foul. Oh, my golly, this is and, they have been, my point is, as Strassel points out, that's why I've saved her comments back in the Midnight Audio Yard to appropriate time to use them. That's all part of forestalling accountability. I mean, they are until what? If they can keep up this false note long enough, maybe they can dredge up enough reaction that they can actually put a Democrat in the White House, and then all this crap will go away. Every bit of it will go away. And had Hillary, the liar, ever gotten in there, you would never have heard a peep out of it, okay? I really stunned myself with how well I understand all this stuff. I really do. You know, Jay, have you not appreciated this yet?
Appreciate you every day. Ward.
Every day you appreciate it. William McGurn, okay? This is the next. Students, pay attention. This came out yesterday. The FBI needs a grand jury. We need a grand jury to haul in the FBI guys. Okay? Okay. I'm pausing.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
That's the damn truth.
That's for all our viewers out there.
All our viewers out there, all right? Now, here's the strongest evidence, William McGurn writes, and he's pretty much been neutral throughout this entire thing. He says that the strongest evidence for bias in this treatment of Trump, you can jot this down in your notes, Jay, because it will be on a test. The vastly different treatment the Justice Department and the FBI accorded Mr. Trump and Mrs. Clinton. Okay? Two entirely different treatments, all right? Here's what he says she got. She benefited, and this will be on a quiz, all right? You can use your notes. She benefited from, you ready? Immunity agreements, okay? She benefited from a decision not to search the Democratic National Committee server. Put that in your notes. And furthermore, an exoneration from Frankenstein FBI Director James Comey, who drafted weeks before his agents even interviewed her the exoneration. Okay. Don't screw that up on the test. You can use your notes, okay? In contrast, the FBI, you ready for this, Jay? Never came to Mr. Trump with concerns the Russians had infiltrated his campaign. Instead, Trump's whole team was subjected to surveillance warrants, national security letters, ambush interviews, prosecutions for lying to the FBI. Are you kidding me? Furthermore, the FBI, where does it, go, Barr, go, Barr, go. The FBI launched a counterintelligence investigation into the Trump campaign based on, say after me class, unverified opposition research from a known Trump hater commissioned by none other than Hillary the liar. Okay? Now, Mueller says that a grand jury would fix this. These guys would have to put their paw up and swear the truth to them. And they wouldn't be able to wiggle out. If they didn't, well, you got them. If they do, you got them. Okay? I read that into the public record. I swear. I amaze myself. I don't know how I do this.
He also remains humble at the same time.
I remain humble as the driven snow. All right? Well, here's why I don't, Jay. If I don't love myself, nobody does. I'm probably the most hated guy in the community, right? Come on. I mean, I'd say if I got you as my buddy. Now, Jay are you 6'4", Jay?
6'2".
He's 6'2" and 280 pounds. So, when he puts on his high heels, he's what, are you 6'4" then?
Oh, I'm like 6'7". The wife can't even keep up, man.
When you go for your transformation, you know, oh, God. So anyway.
I can't even deal with this.
Hey, there's a great guy I'm going to have on next week, Elio Piedro. We're going to talk a lot with him. He's a fascinating guy. He's one of our sponsors, and I want you to hear his story about how he loves America. So anyway, because I didn't even get to this, and it's 8:59, I didn't even get to anything, Jay. I'm going to start all over where I didn't get to. I didn't get halfway through the list, okay? I didn't get halfway through the list. We're all right, though. We've always got tomorrow. Wasn't that The Wizard of Oz? Well, you didn't listen to fairy tales. I know. You didn't.
Exactly.
I think it was. I mean, I think it all ends up with tomorrow. Somebody out there will know the answer to that. Well, listen, we didn't even get through halfway through our class today. So take it and study it and share it and talk about it. And we appreciate you listening and talking to us. We're going to go out and participate in the wonderful weather here we're having in North Central Florida. So, Warthog Command Center out.
Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
Do you want to put your business in front of 10,000 new customers? Visit wardscottfiles.tv today for more information on our advertising opportunities.